Yeah, welcome. So the topic we'll be discussing in this lecture is process state. During the lifetime of a process may be in different states. So there are five possible states in which a process may be during its lifetime. So we'll try to understand what are these states. So a process will be in a state called new when it is just created and it is loaded into memory. So the first state the process will be in, we call it as new state. The process, the moment it is created, it will be in a state and that is called as new state. So what is meant by created? So as you know, a process is a program under execution. So when the exe code of the particular program, when it is loaded into the memory for the first time, then it is in a new state. Okay. And the second state is running. The moment the process is allocated with the processor, then it means that the process is in running state. It means that the CPU is executing instructions from this particular process. And from the running state, the process may enter into another state called wait state if the process want to perform any IO operation in between its execution. Okay. So from the running state, that is when the process is being executed by the CPU, from that it may enter into a wait state. Why it goes to the wait state means because it may want some IO operation to be done. Maybe it may want something to write to the hard disk. So writing to a hard disk, it may take long time because hard disk is a slower device. So the process now from the running state, it will go into a wait state. That is, it will wait until that IO is completed. Because during that time, processor can execute some other process. Okay. Or a process may want to print something to the printer before continuing to execute the next instruction. Then also printing is a hardware device, it is a slower device, so it will work slowly, so it will take time to complete the job. So during that time, during the time the file is getting printed, the process may enter into the wait state. Okay, why it is going to the wait state? Because CPU is the most valuable resource, so we don't want to waste the CPU time while the IO operation is being going on. So the process just goes to the wait state and the CPU will execute the next process. And, and a waiting process, if it is ready for execution again, if a waiting process, okay, if a waiting process which is waiting for an IO operation, if the IO operation is completed and if it is ready for execution again, then it will enter into a state, that state is called as ready state. That state is called as ready state. So basically ready is a queue. Ready is a queue. All the process which are ready for execution will be placed in the queue and CPU will execute one by one process from the ready queue. Okay, so it means it is just waiting. A process in the ready state means it is just waiting for the CPU to be assigned, nothing else. Okay. Once the process finished its execution, then it is said to be in terminated state. Okay. Once the process has finished its execution, then it is said to be in terminated state. So these are the different states a process may go through during its lifetime. So which is explained in this diagram. The moment the process is created, it is in a state and that state is called as new state. That is when the process loaded into the memory for the first time, it is in the new state. From the new state, the process will enter into the ready queue because it is ready for it is ready to get executed. So it will enter into the ready queue. So ready is basically a queue. So more than one process may stay in this queue. It is not that only this new process is there. Maybe some other process may be in this queue already. There may be process 1, which is waiting, process 2 is waiting. Say currently some process is running already, and this new process may be a third process. Okay, so then from this ready queue, the process will, the CPU will take one by one process and it will execute. Okay, first it will take process 1, it may execute for some time, and then it may execute process 2 for some time. After that it will execute this new process which is previously new. Okay, and it will execute. So now this process is in running state. If the CPU is assigned, then it is in the running state. And while getting executed, if the particular process want to perform some IO operation, if it wants to perform some IO operation, say the process want to print something to the printer, but printer is a slower device, printing will take much time. So during that time, the process can wait, but CPU cannot wait. So the process will go into a wait state, and CPU will continue with the next job. Maybe CPU now once again will continue with process 1. Okay, so then it will in the wait state as long as the printing is done or any IO operation is completed. Once the IO is finished, so when you can see here, when any IO or if any event has to occur, then the process will go into the wait state. Once the IO is completed, then again it will go into the ready state. Again it will come into the ready state. Okay, once again it will come back into the ready state and it will wait for the processor to be assigned. So like that it will execute. So while executing, the processor has finished execution. The particular process has completed all its instructions and it has finished execution. Then it will get into the terminate state. Okay. So this is the uh, life cycle of a process. So during its lifetime, a process may enter into all these 5 states. Okay. So why the process is going from running to ready? Because CPU is context switched. CPU is context switched. That is, the CPU will not execute only one process until it finish execution. No, CPU will allocate time. So if there are some 5 processes in the memory, like process 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, maybe for each process there may be some time. Like process 1 will execute for 2 milliseconds, process 2 will execute for 3 milliseconds, process 3 will execute for 5 milliseconds, process 4 will execute for 4 milliseconds, process 5 will execute for again 2 milliseconds, like that. So now when process 1 was assigned to the CPU, it will execute only for 2 milliseconds. After 2 milliseconds, an interrupt will be created. So again, this particular process 2 will once again enter into the queue. This is actually first process. So first process will once again enter into queue. So okay. So again it should wait in the queue, right? So now the processor will start executing the second process, which will execute for 3 milliseconds. After 3 milliseconds, after 3 milliseconds, again an interrupt will be created. Okay, so like that, uh, for each process there will be a time slice. So once that time period is over, an interrupt will be created and it will be moved to the ready queue. So this happens continuously. So this keep on happens until that particular process is finished executing. Once it is finished executing, it will go into the terminated state. Meanwhile, if there is any interrupt, sorry, if there is any IO operation, it will come into the wait state. Okay. There is something called as a dispatcher. So this dispatcher is the one which moves the process from ready state to the running state. There is something called as state dispatcher. So this dispatcher is the one which moves the process from the ready state to the running state. So these are the different state a process may present during its lifetime. Okay. So that's it about this lecture. We'll